Hi everyone, this is Sunny from Database Tech. So today I had come up with one more new session on SQL Server database. In today's session, I will explain some of the constraints that we use in SQL Server database, which are not null, unique, check, default, primary key, and foreign key. So now let's do them one by one practically in SQL Server. For that, let's open SQL Server first. Now here, before we start, let's pull out the data from a table named as employee details. So let's execute this query. And to execute the query, we have to select the query first and click on execute. You can see we have the below output from this table in which we have columns like ID, name, grade, salary, and place. So now let's understand when to use not null constraint, and for that let me give you one example. Now suppose if we don't want user to able to insert null value for any particular column. Here we can take an example of salary. So what we need is we don't want anybody able to insert null value for this column which is salary. Then how we can achieve this? We can achieve this using not null constraint. So let's see how it works and what is the syntax. But first let's insert some null value for the salary column. We'll copy the insert query and paste it here. And ID we will make it 4 because we already have 3 rows inserted for this table, and instead of 3000 we will make it null. So let's execute this query, and to execute the query we have to select the query and click on execute. One row affected, which you can see in the message below. Now to select the query, to fetch the data from a table, we use select query. So let's execute this query. In the 4th row you can see null value has been inserted for the salary column, which we don't need. We don't need that salary column should have a null value. So now what we will do here, we will create a not null constraint for the salary column. So let's see what is the syntax. It is alter table employee details alter column. So what's the column name here? It is salary, and it again depends on the requirement for what column you want to create not null constraint. So here we are using salary column, so we should give salary, and the data type is int, then not null. So this is what we have to do to create a not null constraint. Now let's execute this query. Cannot insert the value null into the column salary table. So why we get the error? Because in this table, if you will see, we already have null value for the salary column, and when we create this constraint it is not working because we already have the null value in this table. So to make this work, what we have to do, we have to first remove this. So let's first remove this null value using delete query. So from delete we are deleting the ID, which is 4. So let's execute this. One row affected, and now if you check the data again, you will not see the 4th row. So now we will execute this query to make this salary column not null. Command completed successfully and it has been implemented. Now when we execute this query again to insert null value for the salary column, will it work? Let us see. Cannot insert the null value for this column, so it will not work. So this is how not null constraint works. Now what if there is a requirement like now you can insert null value, you want user to insert null value for this column, then what you can do here, you can execute this query again, but here without not null. So let's execute this again. Command completed successfully. Now again execute this query and you will be able to insert null value for the salary column. One row affected. Now if you check the data again, you will see null value has been inserted here. So this is how not null constraint works. Now moving to next constraint, that is unique constraint. So let's see how unique constraint work. So let's go to SQL Server again. Now suppose if we have some duplicate value for any column and we don't need that, we don't want that, then how we can achieve that? What I mean is we don't want duplicate value for any particular column. So to achieve this, what we can do? We can use unique constraint. So let's see how to create unique constraint. So here, do we have any duplicate data? Let's check the data first from this table. So here you will find out the duplicate data for name column, which is Nisha and Nisha for third and fourth row. So this is the duplicate data. So let's see how to use unique constraint so that we don't have duplicate data for any column. So what we will do? Alter table employee details, which is a table name, add constraint, will give the name of the constraint. So what's the name of the constraint here? We can give any meaningful name. We'll make it unique constraint. Then it will be unique, and then we'll give the column name. So what's the column name we will give here? Because here we have duplicate data for the name column, so we will give name. So this is how unique constraint we can create. Now execute this query. Could not create the constraint because yes, it will not work. As I said earlier, if you will check the data again from this table, we have already duplicate data. So first we have to remove this. Okay, so first what we will do here, we will delete this row which is id equal to 4. Now again check the data, which is 3 1. Now first what we will do here, we will create the unique constraint and then we'll try to insert data. So unique constraint has been created, and now we will try to insert this row again, which is having Nisha here in the name column. So will it work? Let's see. Violation of unique key constraint. Now it's not allowing us to insert Nisha again for the name column because it is duplicate. But when we change here and make it Nisha 1, will it work now? Let's see. Yes, it is working because Nisha 1 and Nisha is not same. So if you check the data again using the select query, you will see both rows has been inserted, and now here we don't have any duplicate data for the name column. Now this unique constraint will not allow anyone to insert duplicate data for the name column. So you can change the name column here accordingly, which depends on the requirement. If you want to create this unique constraint for any other column, you can give the name of that column here in the unique constraint. So this is how unique constraint works and the use. Moving to next constraint, that is check constraint. So let's see how it works and when to use this check constraint. So let's go to SQL Server again. Now here we have the salary column, and what we need here is that salary should always be greater than 2000 or 3000 or 5000, which depends on the requirement, like what check you want to create, what check you want to set for any column. So here that it should be like salary should always be greater than 2000, or you can say 5000. Let's make it 2000. Then for that, to achieve this, what we can do, we can create a unique check constraint. So let's create the check constraint. Alter table empdetails, add constraint check constraint check salary greater than 2000. So this is how we can create the check constraint. So this is the name of the constraint. Don't get confused here. You can give any meaningful name here, and I had given some name like this. And this is check, the keyword, and this is constraint. This should be correct. Now here, what I have done here, now the salary should always be greater than 2000. Now when the user try to insert salary less than 2000, it will not get inserted and it will not allow anyone to insert salary which is less than 2000. So let's see it will work or not. Now if we try to execute this, it will not work because we already have salary in this table which is less than 2000 here. So first what we'll do, we'll update the salary for all the, but first let's try to execute this so that we will get a better idea. It's not working, it will not work. So first what we have to do, we have to update the salary. And for that we have update query. Update employee details set salary equal to, we'll make it 3000 where id in 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are updating salary which is 3000 for all the rows here for 1, 2, 3 and 4. So let's execute this query. 4 rows affected, and if you check the data again, you will find out the salary is now 3000. So let's execute this constraint now, which is check constraint. So it will work now because salary we have 2000 for all the rows for salary column. Execute this, command completed successfully and it is working. So now if you try to execute this query and try to insert some salary and make it 5000, will it work? Yes, it will work. And make it 2 because we already have some constraint for this, and try to insert one row affected, and if you check the data you will find out we have the salary which is 5000, but if we try to insert some salary which is less than 2000, because here we had created a constraint which is check constraint, let's make it now 1000. Now we are inserting 1000 which is inserting salary as 1000. So will it work? It will not. It is a violation of check constraint because we had create a check here. The salary should always be greater than 2000. It will not allow 1000 or less than 2000. So this is how check constraint works. Now moving to next constraint, that is default constraint. So let's see how default constraint works. Now sometimes what happen like, so this is the table we have, so you forget to insert some data for any column, like for name someone he didn't insert the name. At that time what we want to do here, it should be default. If I have not inserted any name here, then default it should be others or some NA or anything you want. So at that time how it works, how we can achieve this? Using default constraint. So let's see how to create a default constraint. The syntax will be alter table employee details add constraint default constraint default for, sorry it's not like this, default others for, so the name will make it for name. So we are creating default constraint for the name column, and you can change the name accordingly, which depends on the requirement. We can give here salary, place, grade and ID, anything you want. But let's make it for name column. Now let's execute this. But here, first let's execute this and then I will show you. So command completed successfully. We had implemented this default constraint. Now let's insert some data. If we try to here remove this, okay, so we are trying to remove this. So we have how many rows we have here? Sorry, how many columns we have, how many parameters we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 parameters we have. So we have to pass 5 values. And what we are doing here is we are not passing 5 parameters. It is 1, 2, 3 and 4. But here we have to give the column name as well. Employee details, ID, name, grade, salary, and what is the fifth one? Place. So this is the insert query, because here why I had given the column name here, because we have to insert only 4 rows. If we will not give the column names, it will get confused, because it will say you had 5 row columns and you have 5 parameters, but you are inserting only 4. So I had given here the name of the column also. Now here what we will do, we will remove this. So we are removing this, we are making it ID, grade, salary, place. But in the table we have 5 columns and we are inserting only 4 values. Will it work? Yes, it will work, because we had created a default constraint. Let's execute this. The insert conflict with the check constraint. There's a conflict. Why we have the conflict? In the check, what we are saying, the check salary should be greater than 2000. Okay, so let's make it 6000, because we had a check constraint here. It should be salary should be greater than 2000, so that's why we get this error. Now execute this again. One row affected and it has been inserted. Although we had 5 parameters, but we inserted only 4, so still it works. Now if we check the data, in this default constraint we had make this other. So let's see other is there or not in this table for this row. You can see here for this 6th row we have other, because we didn't pass any value, so it has taken the default value which we had given. And if you need to change this, you can make it NA. Like if you need to make it NA, you can do that as well. Cannot create the constraint, see the previous. Okay, because it's saying it's already there the constraint. So first we have to remove this. And how to drop the constraint? You can drop the constraint as well. So let's see how to drop the constraint. Alter table. What's table name? Employee details. Drop constraint. So what's the name of the constraint? So here there is a use of this constraint name which we use to create the constraints. So like if you have to drop the constraint, you have to give the name of that constraint. So here name is this one. So we had given the name here while dropping this constraint. Drop it. Command completed successfully. Now if we change here and make it NA. Execute this again. Command completed successfully. And now when we try to insert this again, make it some other ID like 9. You can see now one row inserted, and if you check the data again, for 9 we have NA. So let's see, we will drop the constraint then try to insert, and you will get the better idea whether what we will get, what error we will get. So we are dropping the constraint this again, And now we don't have any default constraint. Now let's insert this query and check the data from this table. So it's saying null right now because we don't have any default constant, so it is inserting the null value which we don't want. Because like sometimes if the user is not inserting the data, we want some hardcode value in that, so that we will get to know user has didn't insert the value, because sometimes we can get the error if we have the data as null. Okay, so this is how default constraint work. Now moving to next constraint, that is primary constraint. So let's see how primary constraint works. So let's create primary constraint. So what's the syntax? Alter table employee details, add constraint primary constraint, will give primary key, and in that we will pass for which column you want to create primary key. And if you check the data here from the table, we had these IDs, we have these columns. So what we want here, we want that ID should be primary key. So that's why we had given the name as ID. So we want this ID to be primary key. Let me show you like how the primary key works. So now we had created this constraint for this ID column. It should be primary. Now we will execute this query first. Command completed successfully, and we had created this constraint for ID column. And now to check the data, you will see now, you can see the first thing what happened here is the ID, it has been sorted now. You can see first it is 1, then 2, then 3, 4, 5. The time you create the primary key, the data gets sorted. Let me show you this without the primary key. Then you will get to know, you will get the better idea like how this primary key had created the impact. So first what we will do, we will drop this constraint. And how to drop the constraint? Alter table employee details, drop constraint. What's the name of the constraint? It is primary constraint. So we will draw this constraint by this query. Select it and click on execute. Command completed successfully, and we are able to draw the constraint which is primary constraint. And now the next is what we will do. We will truncate this table. So do we have any data now? Because once we truncate the data, we don't have the data, but the structure will be there. So there is one more query, that is drop. So drop removes everything. It removes the table also, but with the truncate query, we only remove the data, not the structure. So that's why the structure is there. Now again, what we will do here, we will try to insert this data. And if we'll check the data here, the order it is 1, 4, 3, 2, and 10. And when we try to insert this, all the data in one go, if you check now the data, it will be inserted in the same order. You can see there is no change in the order. First it is 1, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 10. So is there any sorting? No, there is no sort in the data. So which is very bad for the indexing. Like if you are using indexing, the ID or some column for which it should have the primary key, that makes your data search fast. So that's why we use indexing, and that's why we should have the primary key invoked for that column. Now here there is no sort. Now to fix this, what we do, we create the constant that is primary key. So let's execute this again. alter table employee details, which is a table name, add constraint, this is the name of the constraint and the primary key, and that we are passing the column name which we want to make the primary key. Command completed successfully, and now if we check the data again, you will find the difference here. It is now sorted. The ID column, it's now sorted. First is 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 10. One more thing, if you will try to insert the null value here, if you try to insert and make it null, it will not work, because for if you have any column which is primary key, you have set that primary key, you will not be able to insert null value for that column. Cannot insert the value null in the column ID because it is primary key. So this is how primary key works. Now moving to next, that is foreign key. So let's understand when to use foreign key and what is its impact and work. Let's go to SQL Server again, and to understand foreign key, let me give you one example. So we have these two tables, one is employee and one is salary. Now execute this query. You can see from employee we have this details in which we have 3 rows, ID, name and father, and in the salary table we have these two columns, ID and name, and these tables are dependent. Why? Because see, this table employee details is having the details of the employee, one is Suresh, Mahesh and Raju, and these are the IDs 1, 2 and 3, and the second table is salary, which is having the salary of this employee details. This one, which is of ID 1 is Suresh, is having the salary as 1000. Sorry, it's a name. Why it is name? Let me check. We can modify the name here and make it salary. Let's change the name here to salary. Okay, for which table it is salary table. So first let's change the column name. The syntax is exe sp rename. What's the table name? Table name is salary dot name, and we want to change it to salary, and this is column. So this is how we can change the column name if it is mistakenly placed. So here it is name, but we want to make it salary, so that's why we are renaming the column name. Execute the query and click on here. Now if you check the data again from this table, you will see it has been now changed to salary, but this is not our requirement. I was just changing the column name. What we have to understand here, how foreign key works. So we have these two tables and this should be dependent. How? Let's see. So we have these 3 rows here, and now if somebody is trying to delete the data from this parent, so you can consider this parent table. The employee is the parent table and the salary is the child table, and we have 3 employees here, and these 3 are having the salary, which is this. Now if you delete this row here, Raju, which is having the ID as 3, if you delete this row, is this meaningful here? Then what is the use of this here in the child table? Now how will you find out this 3 belongs to which? Now if you just try to delete this, delete from salary where ID equal to 3. No, sorry, we have to delete from, not from salary, employee. So we are deleting data from the parent table. So this is parent table. So we are deleting this row 3. Now if you delete this 3, And if you check the data again from these two tables, what you will find out, so this salary is for which name? It is meaningless. It doesn't makes any meaning, like we don't have anyone with ID 3 in the parent table. Then this salary belongs to which person? We don't have the details for that. So that's why what we will do here, we will create a foreign key, so that if somebody tries to delete the data from the parent table, then he should not be allowed. Let's create that. So alter table, first we will create a primary key and then we will create the foreign key. But first we will try to insert this data again for this parent table which we have deleted. We delete the data, insert the data again, and now if you will check the data, we have this third row. Now let's create the primary key. And how to create the primary key? Alter table. What's the table name here? It is employee. Add constraint primary constraint primary key for which column? For ID. So we are making this ID as a primary key for this parent table which is employee. Now execute this. Could not create there's already an object name. Okay, so if there's already, let's make it 1. It doesn't make any issue. Let's make it, change the name. So command completed successfully. We are able to create the primary key for this ID column for this employee table. Now we have to create the foreign key. Alter table. What's the table name here? It is salary. The second table, the child table, is salary. So we have to create foreign key for the child table. Add constraint foreign constraint foreign key ID references employee ID. So it's okay. So what we have done, so we have created the primary key which you already know how to create that, and for the foreign key what we have done here, the same way. Here this is the name of the foreign key and this is the foreign key, and in that we are giving the ID for the here. Okay, let me show you. So this is the table, and for the salary we are creating, for this one we are creating the foreign key which is a child table, and we are giving the reference. So this is important, like if you are creating the foreign key, you have to give the reference of the base table. So what is the base table here? It is employee, because these two tables are dependent. So this is employee table which is the base table, and in that we are giving which we are setting this as ID which is a foreign key. So we are giving the reference of that ID which we had created primary key here. So foreign key is this one from the child table, and we are giving the reference of the base table. So this is the base table employee, and in the base table we had created primary key for ID. So that's what we are giving here. Now let's execute this as well. Table employee. Okay, why it is showing the, let me show you. Let's execute this one more time. Okay, so actually we had executed both the queries together, so that's why it was giving us error, because we already had executed this query. So now the command completed successfully. We had created primary key as well as foreign key. Now what will happen here, what difference it will create now when you try to delete data. Now let's execute this query again. So now if you try to delete the data from the parent table now, will it get deleted? No, it will not get deleted. So let's try. The delete statement conflicted with the reference constraint. Now we cannot delete the data because we had created a foreign key for that. And it is meaningful also. Because see, let me give you one more example here. So these are having 3 rows, and if this data is present, like we are trying to delete this row number 3, and if this data is present in the child table, it will not be allowed to delete. But yes, you can delete the data from the child table. If you want to delete this 3 here, you can delete, but you cannot delete the data from the base table if that is existing in the child table. Now let's try to delete the data in the child table. Delete from salary where id equal to 3. It will get deleted. It doesn't have any issue. One row affected, and now if you check the data, you are able to delete this data and you will find only 1 and 2 rows in the child table, and that makes sense because in parent table, yes, we can have 3 rows, we can have 3 employees. It's not required that should be present in the child table. But if that is but from the parent table, from the base table, we cannot delete. Now if you try to delete this from this base table, now it will get deleted. Why? Because now in this child table we were not having the row which is 3, so that's why we were able to delete this now. Earlier it was not, we were not able to delete that. So this is how primary key and foreign key works. If you have some dependent table and the parent and the child concept is there, then for that you can create a primary and a foreign key. So that was it for today's session. I hope you have understood all the constants. We'll come up with the next session shortly. Till then, have a nice day. Bye bye. Take care. Be healthy, be safe, and the most important, love your family.